Hi guys, welcome to my video for writing a plot in creative writing. Now if you've been watching this as a series, plot is the last video you need to watch before you can really just go for it and start writing, which is really exciting. It is the last step because you need to know who your characters are and what your world is before you can plan what's going to happen. But if you made it this far, you have both of those things and you're ready to plan what happens. Now if we look up plot in the dictionary, the first definition that comes up, the noun form, is a secret plan or scheme to accomplish some purpose. But the second definition is closer to what we're doing with plot. And it says, also called storyline, the plan, scheme, or main story of a literary or dramatic work, as a play, novel, or short story. When you plot something, that means you're planning something. And in the storyline, the plot is basically what the characters do. What's the plan for the story? Where does it go? You've introduced characters, you've brought us to a world. What's the plan? Where are we going with all of this? When you write a story, what you need to do once you've pulled us into your world is to take us somewhere. Your reader wants to feel something. Your reader wants to go somewhere, anywhere, wherever you're going to take us. But you need to know where you're going to take us, and that is where plot planning comes in. Plots can get very, very complex, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to show you a very simple one. You can do way crazier stuff than what I'm going to show you, but if you're new to creative writing, this is all you need to get started. All right, so the first step in a basic plot structure is exposition. That's where you introduce the world, you introduce your characters, you tell your reader, this is where we are. And then usually there's some sort of conflict. Something happens to one of your characters, usually your main character, and that leads to rising action. Things start heating up. Now remember from my other videos, your character should want something. Your character has a goal, they're reaching for something, and that's usually where the conflict comes from. As they go about achieving their goal, something happens, that's the conflict, and then there's a lot of rising action as your character keeps trying to get the thing that they want. Eventually, it comes to a climax, that's peak conflict. Once you hit the climax, you go down falling action, and then eventually, you arrive at resolution. After the conflict happened, how did things turn out for your character? This is the basic structure. You can write some pretty interesting stories with just this, and we're going to use my character Jared to come up with an example. I'm going to use him to show you guys what like a really basic story could look like. So Jared, as we know, is a lonely middle schooler. That is the exposition. So if I were writing the story, I would say, you know, this is Jared, this is the world he lives in. That's my exposition. I'm introducing us to the character, to the world. And then the conflict that I would come up with if I were writing this story is that he gets bullied by a new friend. Remember, he's a quiet, shy kind of person. He's really passionate about his interests, but other than that, he's pretty low-key. So he makes a friend, and that friend ends up being a bully. The rising action is that Jared gets angrier and angrier. He realizes he's being bullied. He realizes that this person isn't being good to him. And the climax is a really dramatic scene where he confronts his bully in the cafeteria in front of everybody during lunch. This story is set in a school, because I'm a teacher, so obviously. That's the climax. Now the falling action is that Jared, after confronting his bully, ends up making some new friends. He meets some really cool people. His new friends make him feel really supported, and then eventually the bully stops. And the resolution, how the story plays out, is that Jared ends up happier. He's not lonely anymore. And he's less misunderstood. He's not as quiet and shy because remember, he's passionate, he's got his interests. And so now he feels like there are people who understand him. And he opens up because of that. So he ends up better. This is a happy story. So that's my example for you guys. If you're in my class, I'll be giving you a worksheet with all of this so you can come up with your example. But I do want to say that as you sit down and plan out a plot for your story, don't feel like you have to know everything. And don't feel like you have to stick with that plan. A lot of writing is just sitting down and seeing what happens as you write. And you might come up with like a plot structure that you think you're going to use, and then halfway through writing that story, you decide to do something completely different. That's totally okay. This is just to help get you started. You don't need to stick to this, but you do need to have a pretty clear idea of what you want to happen in the story. That's all. You just need a clear idea, but you don't have to stick to it exactly. Thanks for watching my video. I really hope you have a lot of fun writing your story.